Can you hear me?
Yes, sir. All good.
Okay.
We've got about a minute and we still have folks joining through the waiting room, so we have time. I'm gonna give it about another 15 seconds or so, just for any latecomers. Here they are. Okay, so I do have 7:30 on my watch here, and should anybody arrive after, I will just monitor and let them in. I would like to call this August 11th City Council meeting to order. And actually there's two council members joining now. So I'll wait 1 second before calling this officially to order. And we'll call it 7:31. At this time, now that it's called to order, I would like everybody to remain muted, but join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Now at this time, will the members of the council please unmute so the clerk can call roll.
Cannon.
Here.
Budmetz.
Present.
O'Brien.
Here.
Veneziano.
Here.
Lassesi.
Here.
Diastis.
Present.
Sonoyka.
Here.
With 7 present and no members absent, there is a quorum this evening. Therefore, members of this audience, this virtual audience, are reminded that these proceedings are being recorded and they will be available for future and current broadcasts on the city's cable television channel, as well as other media outlets. Just a quick reminder, we've been through this quite often, but for anybody who might be new, public comment will be afforded the ability to join in on this conference line and speak, so long as you've provided your credentials in the time that was allotted prior to this meeting. Any other members who arrive on site will also be afforded the opportunity to speak in person had they not known about the sign-in parameters, and any written comments that were submitted will also be addressed as well. So with that said, I don't think we have to go over the same rules on how we engage here by raising hands for first, seconds, and motions or for discussions. That's pretty much old hat by this time. And so we'll move on to the first business of the City Council here, which is to approve minutes from the previous meeting. And that consists of the July 14th, 2020 City Council meeting. Is there a motion by show of hands to approve these minutes? Thank you, Alderman O'Brien, and thank you for the second, Alderman Cannon. Is there any discussion or any corrections, additions, or deletions to these minutes by show of hand? And seeing none, the question is, shall the minutes be approved? Will the clerk please call the roll?
Cannon,
Yes.
Budmats,
Yes.
O'Brien,
Yes.
Veneziano,
Yes.
Bessesi,
Yes.
Diastis,
Yes.
Sunoika.
Yes.
With 7 in favor and none opposed, those minutes are approved. Now we'll move on here, and there is nothing to deviate over for this evening's meeting, and then moves on to the mayor's report. I'm sure you all are aware of the interesting weather that we had yesterday. Our tornado sirens were proven effective and worked with the strong winds and property damage that was had in surrounding neighborhoods near us. That leads me to the next point that I wanted to mention during the mayor's report, is that ComEd, with the numerous power outages that have occurred as a result of the storm, they also want to remind the general public that they still have the comprehensive COVID-19 package to assist customers and communities if they are in fact in need because of the COVID-19 pandemic. And if there are issues that you're having at home struggling to make your utility bills, go on to ComEd's website at www.comed.com/cares. And there you can find information for forgiveness and relief if you have any financial issues and want your utility to be taken care of in some capacity. Having said that, are there any ward reports this evening by show of hand? Alderman Sunoika?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I have 2 items to report on this evening. First, I received a call from a resident on July 30th requesting assistance with a permit. Many thanks to Public Works and Community Development for assisting the homeowner with his construction improvements by identifying a swift and equitable solution so that the improvements could continue. Second, last Thursday, Alderman O'Brien and I attended implicit bias training hosted by the League of Women Voters, Arlington Heights, Mount Prospect, and Buffalo Grove, and facilitated by Dr. Destiny Fury. All city officials and departments serving Rolling Meadows residents would benefit from this training. Our community is diverse, but diversity does not mean that we are free from bias. Recordings of Thursday's training will be made available in English, Spanish, Russian, and ASL. This training is free to all residents, staff, and community members. So if you check the League's website at lwvah.org in the coming weeks for the upload, that will be available then. This concludes my ward report for Ward 7.
Thank you, Alderman Sunoika. Alderman Budmats, your hand's up. The floor is yours.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I received 2 calls this week from different persons, both specifically regarding traffic and speeding on Vermont. People who are using it as a throughway when going from Euclid to Kirchhoff or back from Kirchhoff to Euclid. But both of them just expressed that there's been excessive amount of speeding on Vermont, and that it's even the FedEx guy or the Amazon guy just like zipping from place to place to deliver packaging. So I'm asking if the traffic committee would want to review putting a sign that says no through traffic on, or if that's allowable on the entrance to Vermont from Euclid or Kirchhoff, so that the traffic could be reduced in this area. This is a residential area. It's really not meant to be a throughway. And if we can do anything about setting up extra patrols in the area to ward off speeding and to discourage speeding in this area, as there are families with young children on Vermont. So that was the gist of both of their calls. And so I'm just passing the information along to the police and the traffic committee if they could take that under consideration. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Alderman Budmats. Alderman O'Brien, your hand's up. The floor is yours.
Great, thank you, Mr. Mayor. Just wanted to pass on thanks to, I won't recap what Alderman Sunoika did for the training last week. That was great. One to attend as well. Is just a thanks to the staff and everything like that and the updates we've received. I did receive a handful of residents reaching out regarding properties that aren't being well maintained, regrettably due to some foreclosures around town, given the economic times, everything like that. So do thank staff for being on top of that with the updates they provide to us, as well as the couple residents that did reach out and they are working with a couple of the neighbors, and I'm aware of the residents that did reach out. So thanks for that. And again, just reinforcing, as I think is on our committee, the whole meeting for August, that reminder of the Family Assistance Program, since it does look like some of these are based on past foreclosures and potentially some other situations going on. So thanks to the staff for working on that delicate situation to make sure that the properties do stay well maintained during this time. Thank you.
Thank you, Alderman O'Brien. Alderman Veneziano, floor is yours.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Hopefully you guys can hear me. I'm kind of getting spotty Wi-Fi right now. So just wanted to say thanks to, I believe it was Public Works and Park District and Chief Nowacki for having PD go out last weekend. I know my report was kind of spotty to Chief Nowacki because I was up in the mountains. The Community Park District had some cleanup that needed to be done on a Saturday early morning. I got some messages from residents very early in the morning. So they expedited that cleanup extremely fast. So the residents did reach out and say thanks for that cleanup and getting that taken care of. So thank you.
Thank you, Alderman Veneziano. Any other ward reports at this time? Seeing none, now would be the time that we move on for the meeting to be open to the public, but I have been informed that there are no signatures on the sign-in sheet, nor are there any members of the public at City Hall to go ahead and request to speak. So we will move on from that portion of this evening's meeting on to the pending items. The first one brings us to line item A, ordinance number 20-31. It's to amend Chapter 6 entitled Alcoholic Beverages of the Rolling Meadows Code of Ordinances regarding regulations applicable to licenses for video gaming. This is the second reading. Is there a motion to adopt this ordinance by show of hand? Thank you, Alderman Cannon, and thank you for the second, Alderman Sonoyka. Is there any discussion on this item? Seeing none, the question is, shall the ordinance be adopted? Will the clerk please call the roll?
Budmats,
Yes.
O'Brien,
Yes.
Veneziano,
Yes.
Bessesi,
Yes.
Diastis,
Yes.
Sunoika,
Yes.
Cannon.
Yes.
With 7 in favor and none opposed, this ordinance is adopted. This now brings us to line item B, ordinance number 20-32, which is to approve a text amendment to the zoning ordinance of the City of Rolling Meadows to define, establish, and regulate video gaming cafes as special use within the commercial districts of the City of Rolling Meadows. Again, this is for second reading. Is there a motion to adopt this ordinance by show of hands? Thank you, Alderman Veneziano, and thank you again, Alderman Sonoyka, for the second. Is there any discussion by show of hand on this item? Seeing none, the question is, shall the ordinance be adopted? Will the clerk please call the roll?
O'Brien,
Yes.
Veneziano,
Yes.
Bessesi,
Yes.
Diastis,
Yes.
Sunoika,
Yes.
Cannon,
Yes.
Budmats.
Yes.
With 7 in favor and none opposed, this ordinance is adopted. This brings us down to line item C, ordinance number 20-33. Approve text amendments to define and regulate adult use cannabis, craft grower business establishments, and adult use cannabis infuser organizations as special uses in the M1 and M2 zoning districts in the City of Rolling Meadows. Again, this is for second reading as well. By show of hand, is there a motion to adopt this ordinance? Thank you, Alderman Diastis, and thank you for the second, Alderman O'Brien. Is there any discussion on this item by show of hand? Alderman O'Brien.
Great, thank you, Mr. Mayor. And this might be more for staff. Is on this one too, reading through the proposed ordinance and everything like that, in support of it, just from a tax perspective though, is it just through property taxes since SAL is clearly not allowed for these properties if it were to come forward and we would have an occupant or a tenant interested. Is for the city, would it just be through property taxes, or is there another type of tax incurred as well, like with the recreational use? Each municipality could incur or could implement up to a 3% tax, as we've done as a council. But I'm wondering from this perspective, unless I missed it in the writing, I didn't see about any tax potential benefits for the city on that. Is staff able to comment on that?
Mayor, all that I can tell you is that no, there's really no tax incentive on this kind of item, but an infuser, a grower, craft, and all those kind of pieces, it does increase the amount of water that is used. It's also another business in town, so there is no additional 3%. I would love to, and if we can lobby the state, that would be great, but at this point in time, it's just another business with a use in an area that, you know, we don't have at this point in time, and that's why we're making this designation in those districts and designation in the city.
Great, thank you. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Alderman O'Brien. I'm going to go ahead and lower your hand and move on. If there's any other discussion on this by show of hand. Great. Seeing none, the question is, shall the ordinance be adopted? Will the clerk call the roll?
Veneziano,
Yes.
Bessesi,
Yes.
Diastis,
Yes.
Sunoika,
Yes.
Cannon,
Yes.
Bud Matts,
No.
O'Brien,
Yes.
With 6 in favor and 1 opposed, this ordinance is adopted. Moving on to line item D, ordinance number 20-34, approve extending liquor license termination deadlines for Class A1, Class A2, Class A3, and Class D liquor licenses for second reading. Is there a motion to adopt this ordinance? Thank you, Alderman Diastis, and thank you for the second, Alderman Veneziano. By show of hand, is there any discussion on this item? Seeing none, the question is, shall the ordinance be, Alderman Veneziano, your hand is up.
Sorry, there's a delay. So my question is, staff, how are we going to get this information out to the businesses that this, if it does pass, this information out to our businesses that this, like their license renewal date will be different?
Manager Crumstock, go ahead.
Thank you, Mayor. Obviously, what we've already done before when we were discussing this, notification to the businesses that had the classification that was done by the police department. So once this passes, those items that, or those licenses that have already been issued will be reissued with those additional points. So we've already done the notification. With the passage of this, we will reissue licenses that are already out there with the 2 additional months. So we're already in process, and it will continue when we do that, when the officer actually gives them the new license too.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Alderman Veneziano. Again, by show of hand, is there any other discussion on this item before moving on to call vote? Seeing none, the question is, shall the ordinance be adopted? Will the clerk call roll?
Bessesi,
Yes.
Diastis,
Yes.
Sunoika,
Yes.
Cannon,
Yes. Yes.
Bud Matts,
Yes.
O'Brien,
Yes.
Veneziano,
Yes.
With 7 in favor and none opposed, this ordinance is adopted. Moving swiftly down the agenda, this brings us to the next item, which is the consent ordinance is in for first reading. It consists of 2 items, items E and F. I'm going to be pulling item E, and that leaves F. Does any member of the council wish to pull F at this time by show of hand? If not, we will be doing these individually anyway. Alderman Bud Matts.
Yes, I wish to pull item F.
Okay. Thank you for that. So the reason, as we move on through this now, the reason that I pulled item E, as you know, is staff is asking for a waiver of the first reading so the ordinance can be approved immediately. And as a result, is there an alderman willing to make a motion for waiving the first reading of this ordinance by show of hands? Thank you, Alderman Bessetti, and thank you, Alderman O'Brien, for the second on that. And ordinance number 20-35 for everyone is to approve an ordinance confirming and extending the state of emergency within the city of Rolling Meadows due to the COVID-19 pandemic. Is there any discussion on the motion to waive first reading at this time? By show of hand. Alderman Budmats.
I will once again reiterate that I think we should have a first reading for this for our next meeting tonight, and that we should stop the bad practice of waiving first readings whenever possible. I just think it's poor form. Other than that, I really don't have a problem with expediting this or the content of what we're trying to expedite. I just think that we can plan ahead. This is not an emergency anymore. We've known about it since March. Thank you.
Thank you, Alderman Budmats. Is there any further discussion on the motion to waive this first reading? Alderman Bessetti, your hand is up.
Yeah, I would like to second Alderman Budmat's comments. And I'm hoping that at our next council meeting, we'll not only see the waiving of the first reading, but also the first reading for the meeting after that. That's all. Thank you.
Thank you, Alderman Bessetti. Any other comments on the motion to waive first reading? Attorney Wolf, please chime in here.
Yes, thank you, Mayor. I would just like to provide the council a brief explanation. The reason why there is a request to waive first reading is that these ordinances can only be in effect for as long as until the next meeting. And so our very first ordinance that we enacted was an emergency ordinance, just as these are, continuing the state of the emergency. So the preceding ordinances do not allow us to continue it beyond the very next meeting. So we are requesting that you waive first reading. In order for us to have a first reading on this, we'd have to be presenting the city council with two ordinances at the next meeting. One, so there's no time lapse with respect to the state of emergency. So if the council doesn't approve this and waive first reading, there's going to be a lapse in the effectiveness of these declaration of emergency ordinances. It's not an uncommon practice to waive first reading by any means. And most municipalities don't even require first reading of their ordinances. So it doesn't by any means invalidate the ordinance, but I just would like to provide that input so the council knows that the impact of not waiving first reading in this regard will preclude the village from declaring the state of emergency, possibly preclude the ability to get emergency funds during that duration if there is a lapse in approving this.
Thank you, Attorney Wolf, for that. Alderman Sonoyka.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. So in response to Attorney Wolf's comments and to follow up with Alderman Bessetti and Alderman Budmatz's suggestion, then can we expect on the next agenda to have two ordinances where we waive the first reading once again to continue without any lapses in our state of emergency due to the COVID-19 pandemic, but then prepare going forward to have a first and second reading?
We can do that. I don't have any problem putting two ordinances on there unless staff has any other input in this regard.
Manager Crumstock or other staff, any input on this direction? Okay. Any other comments here or discussion on the motion to waive this first reading this evening? Seeing none, the question is, shall the ordinance be moved forward for a final approval? Will the clerk please call the roll?
Diastis,
Yes.
Sunoika,
Yes.
Cannon,
Yes.
Bud Matts,
Yes.
O'Brien,
Yes.
Veneziano,
Yes.
Bessesi.
Yes.
With 7 in favor and none opposed, this ordinance does move forward. So circling back to it for its finality and final approval, ordinance number 20-35, approving the ordinance for confirming and extending the state of emergency within the city of Rolling Meadows due to the COVID-19 pandemic. Is there now a motion to approve this ordinance by show of hand? Thank you, Alderman O'Brien, and thank you, Alderman Bessesi. Is there any discussion on this final approval? Seeing none, the question is, shall the ordinance be adopted? Will the clerk please call the roll?
Sunoika,
Yes.
Cannon,
Yes.
Bud Matts,
Yes.
O'Brien,
Yes.
Veneziano,
Yes.
Bessesi,
Yes.
Diastis.
Yes.
With 7 in favor and none opposed, this ordinance is adopted. This now brings us on to the next line item here, F, ordinance number 20-00, amend Appendix B entitled Schedule of Rates, Fees, Fines, and Penalties of the Code of Ordinances of the City of Rolling Meadows regarding building and construction fees. Is there a motion to adopt this ordinance? Excuse me. Thank you, Alderman Cannon. As I hear Assistant Director Joel Charlton, and thank you for the second, Alderman Bessesi. Alderman Bud Matts, you had pulled this, so the floor is yours.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. The reason I pulled this is because I had a conversation with Director Horn today discussing specifically the item of the bond that is required for permits and their completion. I don't know if you recall, but this past year we had a problem where an in-town contractor had completed a number of projects, not had them final inspected, and had it in his contract with the homeowners that it was their responsibility to get the work final inspected. They were not aware of this, of course. They figured that, you know, the job was done, they'd paid the contractor. And so it seems to me that we need to do a better job in this particular area of tying the amount of bond to the size of the project so that homeowners don't get taken back by surprise if they have a large project and the final approval wasn't received. And then if it's a small project, that we're not holding on to 5,000 of their dollars for too long of a time. And so I think we need to just somehow or another tie the bond amount in some fair way to the dollar amount of the project. And Director Horn told me that he had already been looking into it before I even brought it up. So that's item A. And then item B, I would like to have some kind of an idea if the staff could provide us with some comparison as to where we fit in on these fees, so that I just know that some homeowners are going to come up to us and say, I can't believe that you're charging, you know, X number of dollars for this project. That's crazy because Palatine only charges $5 or whatever. So I'm just looking to make sure that somehow or another we fit in the overall average and that we don't, you know, stand out like a sore thumb, either too cheap or too expensive, but, you know, someplace just right for the service that we're providing in these areas. So could we, before the second reading, get some kind of comparison for some of these permits to what other municipalities are charging for similar items? And that's my questions on these items.
Thank you for that. Alderman Bud Matts, are you looking for confirmation from staff at this time to see if it is feasible, or just expecting that we?
Yeah, I mean, this is the first reading, so I'm happy to move it along to the first reading. I'd just like to get that information prior to the second meeting, if at all possible.
Okay, and then staff, is that a possibility feasible? Is that a feasible request?
Yeah, Mayor, we should be able to get some examples. It's a pretty comprehensive fee schedule, so we're going to have to kind of pick some example permits to compare. The one request I would have is, or direction I would request is, do we want a comparison to neighboring communities? Or do we want a comparison to similar communities? In that, you know, most of our neighboring communities are significantly larger than us. So there's a variety of factors that go into the size of their departments, the other kind of revenue streams they have where they can afford to have reduced permit fees, things like that? Or would you prefer I seek out communities that are similar in size, but may not be communities local, you know, at least adjacent to our community? I can find some of either one. I just was wondering.
Alderman Budmats, do you have a preference on that now knowing the dichotomy?
Those are both fair assessments. I guess the question is, a community of equal to our size is a fair thing because they have the same economic hurdles to overcome that we do based on the size of our building department and their building department. But then at least one of our neighboring communities, just so that we know that we're not totally out of line with a neighbor, if that could be, you know, part of your discussion.
Certainly. Thank you.
Thank you, Alderman Budmats. Alderman Diastis, I thought I saw your hand up. I just want to make sure I don't miss you before moving on.
Yeah, thank you, Mayor. I was just going to say I agree with Alderman Budmats. Maybe 2 neighboring communities and 2 of equal size, and so that our team doesn't have to, you know, kill themselves trying to find a dozen different neighborhoods. So I'm good with what Nick said, though.
Okay. Alderman Cannon, I did see your hand go up and down. Don't want to miss you either, if in fact you had something.
I don't need anything. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Okay. Then Alderman Bessetti, your hand's up.
Yeah, just got a question on here. On in the PDF here, it shows temporary tent and canopy permits. I just want to make sure I'm understanding that correctly. Does that include, let's say you put up a 10 by 20 in your backyard for, you know, a party or something like that?
No, that's more for tents that the public would be going into. So like community events, we check the tents to make sure they're fire rated, things like that. That's
Okay.
a very common tent permit. So
Yeah, I
it's
just
not unique.
wanted to make sure that it doesn't get misconstrued, because I know a lot of people do that. And when we do get back to, you know, like baseball and stuff like that, there's sometimes people will put up canopies and stuff like that around the ball fields just to block the sun. So just wanted to make sure. Thank you.
Thank you, Alderman Bessetti. Is there any further discussion on this topic? Seeing none any longer, the question is, shall the ordinance be moved forward for second reading? Will the clerk please call the roll?
Cannon,
Yes.
Budmats,
Yes.
O'Brien,
Yes.
Veneziano,
Yes.
Bessesi,
Yes.
Diastis,
Yes.
Sunoika.
Yes.
With 7 in favor and none opposed, this ordinance moves forward for second reading. This now brings us down to new business, line item G, which is a motion to approve payment of bills on warrant for August 11th, 2020. Is there a motion by show of hand to approve the warrant? Thank you, Alderman Sunoika, for the first. Is there a second? Thank you, Alderman O'Brien, for the second. Is there any discussion on the bills on warrant? Seeing none, the question is, shall the warrant be approved? Will the clerk please call the roll?
Budmats,
Yes.
O'Brien,
Yes.
Veneziano,
Yes.
Bessesi,
Yes.
Diastis,
Yes.
Sunoika,
Yes.
Cannon.
Yes.
That makes 7 in favor and none opposed. The warrant is approved. This now brings us on to the next item on the agenda, which is the resolutions. It consists of one item, item H, Alderman Bessetti, just going to mute you here for a moment. Is there a motion to approve this resolution? Thank you, Alderman Sonoyka, and thank you, Alderman Cannon, for the second. The resolution is number 20-R-80. It's to authorize the referral to the Rolling Meadows Planning and Zoning Commission for special use consideration regarding a proposed video gaming cafe doing business as Shelby's, located at 2164 Plum Grove Road in Rolling Meadows, Illinois. Is there any discussion on this resolution by show of hand at this time? Alderman O'Brien.
Thanks, Mr. Mayor. Just real quickly, I do want to thank staff for getting out the readable view of the floor plan. And also thanks to you, Mr. Mayor, for the letter that you read last time from the hospitality group as well as them. It was great to see that there is going to be the gas grill as well as the hood is going to be on there because we know how much that's been discussed over the last several. So thanks to staff for providing that, because I know it was a big old plan that was on file at City Hall and you got it down to a much more manageable one for our review. That's all, Mr. Mayor. Thank you.
Thank you, Alderman O'Brien. Thank you. Any further discussion, Alderman Sonoyka?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I just wanted to share that I'll be voting in favor of this tonight. The Planning and Zoning Commission will require a public comment period for the special use, and I've heard from 3 residents regarding this issue, which is not representative of my ward, the surrounding business community, nor the city as a whole. So getting a pulse on where the community is at this point on this issue is a really welcome endeavor and will ensure that we are voting in line with the people we represent. Furthermore, this is Shelby's opportunity to introduce themselves to the community and highlight the benefits that they'll bring to the city. So I'm looking forward to this process. Thank you.
Thank you. Any further discussion on this matter? Seeing no further discussion, the question is, shall the resolution be approved? Will the clerk please call the roll?
O'Brien,
Oops. Yes, I was muted. Sorry, Judy.
Veneziano,
Yes.
Bessetti,
Yes.
Diastis,
Yes.
Sonoyka,
Yes.
Cannon,
Yes.
Budmats.
Yes.
With 7 in favor and none opposed, this resolution is approved. Moving on, this brings us to other business and reports. I think you can all see the next item is mayor's appointments. I do have another appointment this week for the Economic Development Committee. It is for Christine Burbridge. She is a local business owner of Edward Jones facility here in town. She's also active in our Chamber of Commerce, and she joins me on the board for the Chamber of Commerce as well. Council should have received a write-up about her and her desire to participate on the Economic Development Committee. I do believe she will be a very active and engaged individual for this committee. So at this time, I would appreciate you welcoming her approval to this committee. So with that, I'd like to ask for a motion to approve her appointment. Thank you, Alderman Sonoyka. Thank you for the second, Alderman O'Brien. Is there any discussion on Christine's appointment? Seeing none, will the clerk please call the roll?
Veneziano,
Yes.
Bessetti,
Yes.
Diastis,
Yes.
Sonoyka,
Yes.
Cannon,
Yes.
Budmats,
Yes.
O'Brien.
Yes.
With 7 in favor and none opposed, Chris is now a member of the Economic Development Committee. Moving forward, there are no mayor's proclamations this evening. Does the city clerk have anything to report?
I do not.
Wonderful, thank you. That now brings us on to city staff reports, and city staff reports. Item number 1 are the community items of interest, and for this I will defer to Manager Crumstock when you're ready.
Thank you, Mayor and City Council. I have 3 other items to add to what's in front of you, but we do want to thank everybody who donated in the last blood drive on Thursday, June 25th. The next one is Thursday, August 27th, from 1 p.m. to 7 p.m. here at the City Hall and Council Chambers. Due to the need for social distancing, appointments are really needed for this event, and you may schedule by contacting Vitalent at 877-258-4666. 4825. Wearing of face coverings mask is required during this event. Walk-ins will only be accommodated if no scheduled appointments are present in the council chambers. Vitalant will also be conducting the COVID-19 antibody testing for all those individuals who complete the donation process during this blood drive. The next one that we do want to mention, if you missed the July 18th City Market, the next one is scheduled for August 22nd from 10 a.m. to 2 p.m. at the Community Church, 2720 Kirchhoff Road. Face coverings, one-way travel, social distancing are all part of the event. There will be a tent for the mayor and the city council at this event. We've also looked into the little kiddie train with some additional social distancing, some cleaning, and some other things to try to do that. And you also have to make an appointment for it, but we have some other plans with it. We do have a musical group coming to this. So again, trying to bring back to you a little bit more of the market, but also maintaining social distancing and masks as we continue. Next one that we actually have been doing and we continue all the way through September is about the U.S. Census Survey. We do want to mention, obviously, Rolling Meadows is doing great. A little bit different from what's in the report. I can tell you that as of August 9th, the state is at 68.2%. Cook County is at 63.5%. Rolling Meadows is now at 77.5%. Completing the census is very important, and again, everybody wins if you respond, and we'll have more about the census coming up in a little bit too. But if you have not completed your survey online, please go to 2020census.gov or phoning 844-330-2020. The survey was actually sent out back in March, but again, you have until September 30th. That's the new deadline for completing the census at that point. Well, we've also been mentioning that the second installment Cook County property tax bills are out, and property owners have until October 1st to pay without any late charges. They were actually due on August 3rd, but thanks to an ordinance passed back in May by the Cook County Board of Commissioners, you have until October 1st to pay that. The next item that we do want to mention is that a mailing has been distributed throughout the community that requires all water customers, residents, and businesses to participate in the city's cross-connection control survey. This online survey is required by IEPA every 2 years for all public water supplies. The survey helps identify potential cross-connections that may exist within the city's water system, and if you need to get another copy or anything else, please visit the survey portal, which can be found at www.backflow.com/Rolling Meadows. Another friendly reminder for residents and businesses, if you're having a hard time paying your utility bill or food and beverage payments, please contact finance at 847-394-8500 or by email at finance@cityrm.org, and they may be able to place you on a payment plan. It is August, and hope that everybody's seen the August electronic news and views, or what we call the e-news and views. If not, please visit www.cityrm.org, click on the News and Views tab. This is a sister publication to the print newsletter. Obviously, we want to keep on re-emphasize, please shop, dine, order in Rolling Meadows is important more than ever. During the times, it is significant to remember our big boxes, restaurants, small businesses, and all those kind of things. One item that I do want to add out of the three that are coming up, I do want to mention that starting on August 20th and continuing through early morning hours of September 8th, the Rolling Meadows Police Department will be participating in a Labor Day Drive Sober or Get Pulled Over campaign. Try saying that quickly too many times. This partnership with the state of Illinois Police is made possible by federal highway safety funds administered by the Illinois Department of Transportation. Motorists in Rolling Meadows can expect to see stepped up impaired driving patrols and seatbelt enforcement, particularly at night. The next one that I do want to mention is going back to the census. We do have a limited number of Census 2020 masks. If you come into City Hall, we'll be more than happy, as long as supplies last, to give you a mask. You'll also see them at the City Market and anywhere else that we can distribute these masks. The other item dealing with the census is that census takers are out in the community. They did start. What we would tell you is that they have a federal ID that says that they're a U.S. Census taker. They do have a U.S. Census bag. So again, they're very recognizable, but again, if you have any concerns, the only reason that they're knocking on your door is if you have not completed a census or if they're completing something else. But we do know that they are in different communities. And again, the census is very important as we continue going on. With that, those are items of interest.
Thank you, Manager Crumstock. Then we'll move on to the second item here, which is the Traffic Review Committee report for July of 2020. Will this go to you, Director Horn?
Yes, thank you, Mayor. I appreciate it. The Traffic Review Committee reviewed 3 different traffic issues that are listed under the new business. All those issues were resolved or we came to a conclusion on. So those items will not be there next month. In addition, I know one alderman is specifically concerned about the very first item. We had hoped to have removed that this month. Unfortunately, we found out after we had achieved compliance that 2 of the buildings are doing what they weren't supposed to do again. So we are going through the violation process again with them. But other than that, the agenda is updated with all the appropriate information and available for questions should the council have any. Thank you.
Thank you, Director Horn. This will bring us on to the third item here, fiscal year 2021 and fiscal year 2025 capital improvements plan, also known as the SIP. Assistant or Director Gallagher, Finance Director Gallagher, when you are ready, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor and City Council. This staff report does release the capital improvements plan for fiscal year 2021 to 2025. The CIP, as it's known as, can be found on the city's website at www.cityrm.org. Please let City Manager Crumstock know, or myself, if any of the City Council members or the Mayor would like to have a paper copy. We can definitely print a paper copy for any of the City Council members. Just a few quick reminders. The CIP is a working document, is always subject to change as things do develop and change throughout the time of the city's budget planning and other planning. The attached CIP is only a snapshot at this moment in time, and it is not intended to be a budget. Not every project in the CIP makes its way into the budget. There is a lot of planning that goes into the CIP, but by the time the proposed budget or future budgets are completed, CIP data could be outdated. So just remember that not every project that's listed in the CIP makes it into the budget. It is a financial planning tool and does offer city options based on available funding and is a good look ahead. And it is part of our overall resiliency planning that we do. And the city is holding the line on expenses wherever we can, especially due to the fiscal uncertainty at this time. The CIP is also prepared for the city's financial planning and for outside groups such as Standard & Poor's and Moody's. The city's auditors also take a look at our CIP plan. Granting agencies such as the Illinois Department of Transportation and many others also review our CIP. The COVID-19 pandemic has necessitated the city to review and reprioritize capital projects. Some of the projects are deferred and delayed, and other projects are classified as recently initiated or ongoing. They are considered essential projects, and we'll go into a lot more detail at the Committee of the Whole meeting coming up next week. But capital projects are always evaluated on the benefit to the overall community and the services provided to residents and businesses. The city's CIP does help the City Council make these important decisions. As mentioned, the CIP will be discussed at the August 18th Committee of the Whole meeting, and we'll provide a brief PowerPoint presentation at that evening. And that's all I have for tonight.
Thank you, Finance Director Gallagher. Let's go ahead and circle back to Manager Crumstock for the August 18th, 2020 Committee of the Whole draft agenda.
Thank you, Mayor and City Council. Obviously, what you have before you are 7 items that are being worked on. The biggest item for that night will be the Capital Improvement Program, the CIP. We will be doing just a really quick summary on COVID-19 in the city of Rolling Meadows. Obviously, certain aldermen have been in the buildings. Obviously, Mayor, you know how much we've been working on different things, our inventory, but we just want to do an update for everybody to understand some of the things that have been going on for the city since really March. The new billing system, we're going to go over that. Obviously, that launch happened about a week and a half ago now. We just want to go over some of the lessons learned and just re-emphasize some of that. Business licenses, we have a discussion on that one coming up. Tree ordinance, that's something that was brought up by one of Alderman Budmat's residents, and staff has a whole discussion on this one ready to go over. Then we have property maintenance and procedures and liens, just to explain how that works through community development and also through public works, and how that process does go through a process. And obviously the last one that's being prepared is the Business and Temporary Family Assistance Program update. As we said, we would give you an update, what happened up to a certain point in time, how that sits, and who we've heard from, and how we are actually dealing with that. So those are the 7 items that we are working on at this point for the August 18th Committee of the Whole meeting.
Wonderful. Thank you. Let's keep that going for the following meeting on August 25th, and it being the City Council's draft agenda.
So the next meeting that we have, a City Council meeting, is August 25th. So we will have the second reading with those other items that Alderman Budmatz and Alderman Diaz just asked for about the code and some of the other pieces, but that ordinance is back again. We will have 2 ordinances. Obviously, City Attorney Melissa Wolf will wordsmith something, but we will have one asking for a waiver for the ordinance, and then the other one is the next ordinance dealing with the extending the state of emergency for the city of Rolling Meadows. We'll pay some bills. We have an easement for the property at 2809 Owl Drive. That's the sewer connection that we talked about. And obviously, as some of you know, that construction has been working very well. They made a lot of progress and it looks pretty good. But this is just for the easement, so we continue with some of the sewer work. Then we have a replacement of the entry doors at Public Works building located at Birdnick Street. This is award of a contract. Then we have the fire hydrant painting contract. We did this last year. We're asking for it again, and we'll have the justification. It's not a need, but it is a want, and some of the other pieces that we have in process. And then obviously we have some of the staff reports, community items of interest, the July 2020 new business list, and then that is all that we are planning at this point in time, but this is why it's the draft that we have before you.
Thanks, Manager Crumstock. This would now bring us on to matters not on the agenda for this evening. By show of hand, is there a matter not on the agenda that would like to be brought up? Alderman O'Brien?
Thanks, Mr. Mayor. Just want to take a couple minutes for the update from the August 4th Economic Development Committee as well. It was a very full agenda. If my recollection of Roman numerals are correct here, it was about 15 items on the agenda. So I'm trying to look at the Roman numerals and making sure that the XV, I believe, is 15. I'm just going to hit on some of the key ones. We were going to nominate and elect a new chairman. A couple members were missing, plus knowing you had an appointment coming up this time, Mr. Mayor, at this meeting. So we did defer appointment of an official chairman until our September meeting. And then we decided if anybody's not able to make that, that would be the drop dead date. We will pick somebody at that time, but we wanted the new member to have an opportunity as well. This business and community showcase has been canceled based on the feedback that staff had received. They looked at doing it outside, tents, and obviously weather's always a thing, but at best it was lukewarm on reception of continuing forward. So the consensus from those that responded to a survey staff put out was best to be canceled. The third one, and then I just have one after that, the third one, we focused more on goals for 2020, what we wanted to see done in the remainder of the year versus 2021. And that dovetails to where a lot of the topics were discussed, or a lot of the discussion was focused on, is a new City Saver program that I think is on one of our upcoming agendas. Staff is looking into a City Saver program on the website, minimal, if any, cost to staff or the city or anything like that, where it will promote local businesses that are interested in doing it. Staff is putting out a request now or a survey now through the business advocate as well as the assistant to the city manager to all businesses in the area, seeing if they would like their logo, some type of advertisement in a consistent format on our website. And then for those that are interested, they could also post a 10% coupon or a free appetizer, something like that, or 10% off your purchase at X retail shop. So The Economic Development Committee, hands down, thought that was a great idea because the minimal cost, it was just asked to be fast-tracked because obviously the businesses are in need of help now. So that's why we focused a lot of the discussion on what we'd like to see done by the end of 2020 versus going into details on 2021 goals, because we know we need to make sure the businesses are set in 2020 in order to be here in 2021, so we could develop some goals for that. So those were the four main items out of the agenda that we discussed. Happy to take any questions if anybody has any.
Yeah, no, thank you, Alderman O'Brien. I can definitely appreciate the shift in goals from 2021 forward to remain in 2020, obviously, because there's significant time left within the year, and given the circumstances that all the businesses and the community in general are operating under as a result. So thank you and the committee for making that change.
And that was a great thought too that came from us, Mr. Mayor, is this way we felt it was comfortable all businesses. It wasn't just because I know we talked about what we could do for restaurants or retail stores. This we thought was a very consistent approach. Every business has the opportunity if they choose to at no cost to them. So we thought that would address that perspective as well. Thank you, Mr.
Nice.
Mayor.
Thank you. Alderman Cannon.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I would ask that in the near future, the council would consider a thought of mine. This year, when we have our Christmas lighting, I doubt if we'll be able to have a spaghetti dinner. I had a number of people in my ward last year were kind of surprised because they didn't think we even had a Christmas tree. So what I'm going to ask people to consider is buying a tree and putting it in the lot across the street. We're going to own that lot for at least another 4 years. It is an extent, obviously, but it's not a huge expense. And I think if the tree should be on Kirchhoff so people see it or have at least an opportunity to see it. I myself.
Alderman Cannon, I think may have lost you. It might just be mine. Judy, can you hear Alderman Cannon?
I cannot. I can only hear you.
Okay.
Alderman,
Oh, there he is.
You're back. Yeah.
Okay. Did you hear anything I said?
No, just beyond the significant expense of a tree. That's where I lost you.
Okay. All I do is just ask Mr. Mayor that in a future meeting, we talk about the possibility of doing it.
Sure. Noted. Thank you.
Thanks.
Any other matters not on the agenda this evening? Okay, if not, you'll see that there is a final item for closed session personnel. It falls under 5 ILCS 120/2C1 of the Illinois Open Meetings Act. There is a request for us to go into closed session, and it does require a motion and a roll call vote. Do I have a motion to trigger this off? Thank you, Alderman Sonoyka, for the first, and thank you, Alderman Bessetti, for the second. Is there any discussion about going into closed session? Seeing none, will the clerk please call the roll?
Bessetti.
Yes.
Diastis.
Yes.
Sunoika.
Yes.
Cannon.
Yes.
Bud Matts.
Yes.
O'Brien.
Yes.
Veneziano.
Yes.
With 7 in favor and none opposed, we will now enter into closed session. Council, you can meet me in a couple moments on the other line that we have established. The audience and press are advised that we do not anticipate taking any further action upon returning to open session. And so with that, I wish you all a wonderful evening, and Council, I'll talk with you soon. Thank you.